Greetings, Internet. So today we're going to do another plugin breakdown. Today we're going to go through the American Class A. If you've watched any of my videos before, you've seen me use this. It is pretty much one of my most commonly used plugins. It's been a really great all-rounder and probably one of my desert island plugins. It's fairly simple, but it can do a whole lot. So right now I've got it hooked up to a snare drum. Let's just do a breakdown and then we'll move on from there. So this is the American Class A, and let me go through just all the parameters real quick. So if you're familiar with the Softube channel strips, not too much to say. It's the very similar layout. You've got expandable windows just as far as headroom, a little bit input and output gain functions and gain matching. Very common on the Softube series stuff. All right, so let me go over the plugin real quick. On the left, you've got input metering. On the right, you have output metering. So if I hit play here, you'll see the metering. So inputs, outputs, pretty simple. Center here is your RTA. And then on the left and right windows right here, these little squares, these are visual representations of what's going on with your shape, which is your gate, and then just sort of your transient design stuff, and your compressor. And so left to right on the bottom, your actual tools that you can use. You've got a high pass and low pass. You've got a filters to compression button. So what that does is if you click that on, it's not going to operate as a high pass or low pass, but it will do is operate as a high pass or low pass into the compressor. So useful if you just don't want, if you want to keep that low end in there, but don't want it to trigger the compressor, you can do that. Input gain, self-explanatory. Then you've got your shape window, which you've got your gate. Your release time on your gate, then you've got a sustain and punch options, which we'll explain shortly. Sustain, just, boost the tail of your transient punch, just that initial hit. So you can boost or cut those. You can also turn a harder or soft gate. On this, I use this on drums all the time. It's one of my favorite gates for drums. Sure, there are more advanced drum gates out there. This is insanely simple and really quick, which I am a big fan of if you're trying to get a mix knocked out. All right, center, you've got a very familiar looking EQ. So if I turn that on, you're gonna have your EQ line right here, and then different types of curves on your high and low filters. So you've got high pass, shelf, bell, so obviously boost or cut. Same thing. Obviously, your filter isn't going to be doing boosting for your pass, but your shelf will. Then you've got your center, which you've got your frequency selections. It's not fully sweepable. It just turns certain bands selectable. Very familiar looking if you're used to API stuff, because that is what this is designed after unofficially. And it's proportional Q, which means as you turn that knob down, your bandwidth is going to get narrower. That way, sort of initially, you actually look at your curve, it's sort of going to run roughly the same amount of just frequency bandwidth. It'll get more sharp as you're pushing or pulling. You can do up to 12 dB of gain. And then you've got a gain multiplier. So these are in increments of 2. If you want less than that, that goes down to half dB increments at 0.25, and then if you go to 0.5, it'll be 1 dB increments. You can select the order to which all your filters hit. All right, down here, if you click, it'll actually tell you what order your whole process is feeding. So if you hover over it, it'll show you what you're currently on. So right now I have shape, EQ, compressor. That's this sort of center function right here. If I hit here, it'll be the EQ will be first in line, then the shape, then the compressor, and then obviously if I hit the right one, it'll be the shape, the compressor, and then the EQ. I typically like to doing my EQ before the comp, so there we go. Compressor, it'll look very familiar. Again, API driven. You've got your ratios, just the stock. This is sort of just default, just off the bat, 1.5, and then attack all the way up to 25. I typically end up about right here. Parallel controls, attack release functions, and then your threshold. Switch to feed forward, feedback type compression, and then a hard knee versus sort of a softish knee that they have here. And then on the right, one of the more fun functions that is on some Softube channel strips is the drive function. This is probably one of my favorites. Just adds a little console saturation to the sound. I typically end up somewhere around here. and then your drive character. For your left, 12 o'clock, more low-end frequencies. For the right, more high-end frequencies. And then you have output gain or output volume and bypass functions. And that is the short version